Welcome to Luminary Lore Circle. I'm thrilled to share today's story with you. Someone is in bed all day long and makes the whole house gloomy. It's really annoying because she can't even take care of herself. I wonder how long she's going to stay here sleeping all the time. Every time they see my face, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law complain. It's true. It's the same whether Tom has a wife who doesn't do anything or not. What's the point of him having a wife if she doesn't do anything? My father-in-law also joins in and says, I'm Jane Brown, 32 years old. We have been married for 5 years. My father died because of an illness when I was in high school, and my mother died soon after I got married. I have loved drawing since I was a child, and my dream was to become a picture book artist. After graduating from high school, I went to design school and got a job at a small design office as an illustrator. My husband worked for an advertising company, and we met when he came to our office asking me to illustrate a character for an ad. After 2 years of dating, we got married. My sister-in-law also lived with my in-laws, but we decided to stay with them after we got married. When we got married, I became a freelancer, and they allowed me to work from home. I wanted to be a good wife and did my best at housework. It was easy to do because my mother-in-law didn't seem to like housework very much and told me that I could do whatever I wanted. My sister-in-law was also indifferent to housework and then went out for drinks and dinners with her colleagues and friends every day, so we rarely had meals together, but we lived together without any problems. However, 3 years ago, I fell down a flight of stairs at a train station and seriously injured. My life changed drastically. I suffered a spinal injury that left me with a severe disability, paralysis of the lower half of my body. It was quite a shock at first, but 3 years had passed and I am gradually getting used to this kind of plan. My in-laws cared for me when I was injured, but they didn't expect that I would be unable to stand on my own legs for the rest of my life. And as 3 years passed, many things changed. In the midst of all this, my sister-in-law got married 2 years ago and left home. Now I won't have to see Jane anymore. I could clearly sense that my in-laws are annoyed with me, who's now almost bedridden. I could not refute my parents-in-law as I can understand that it would be a burden to have a bedridden person in the house. Since my in-law's house is old, there's no space for a wheelchair to pass through. And I, who cannot move without a wheelchair, has to stay in bed. However, I have been working from home before the accident, so I am able to continue doing so. I consider it a blessing that my upper body is not paralyzed and I am able to work. I'm now taken care of by a helper and a housekeeper who takes care of me on a daily basis. If I had lived alone, a helper would be able to help me with the cleaning laundry, but this is impossible since I have family living with me. The helper can only provide physical assistance. My husband can't take care of me because of his work. My spirits are very healthy. My mother-in-law is not disabled, or all my father-in-law turned 65 last year, is retired, so he's home all the time. Home helpers aren't supposed to provide assistance if you have family living with you who is healthy and not working. Assistance such as cleaning, laundry, and shopping. For the first 2 years or so, my in-laws helped a little while they were at it with their own course. But gradually they stopped doing it. I didn't understand that for my mother-in-law, who originally disliked housework, it must have been a hassle for her to do my stuff. My husband was also kind to me in the beginning, but now he rarely even speaks to me. There's absolutely nothing to help. I have a job to do in caring for someone that isn't a man's job. That's all he says. Just because my in-laws don't do anything for me doesn't mean that the helpers can assist me because of regulations. But the helper saw my situation and with concern for me introduced me to a housekeeper. What a waste of money to have a housekeeper. What kind of extravagance are you talking about? But I also have my personal needs. If you don't do my laundry, I won't have any clothes to change into. Are you trying to exploit me, your mother-in-law? I don't think so. But with my situation, I have no choice but to ask you. When I said that, my in-laws looked at me as if they were looking at a nuisance. You're really a pest. You don't have that kind of money. I'll take care of it. I'm so glad I had kept my job, so I managed to get a housekeeper to come to the house. The housekeeper was a 52-year-old woman named Susie. Her husband died a long time ago. If she has no children. I thought she was so like my late mother. She was a very kind and gentle person who took care of me very well, and I was very happy. Now the only people I can talk to are Susie and the helper, not my family. When Susie arrived, my parents-in-law immediately tried to take advantage of the situation. Hey, you do the laundry and cleaning over here too? No. What? You're a housekeeper? What are you doing here? If I do your part, it will cost extra. Will you pay for it? Then I'll do it. What the hell is wrong with you? What an arrogant housekeeper you are. There was an argument. I felt a little relieved when she clearly said no. One day, after about a year of living like that, my sister-in-law came back divorced. She said it was because her husband cheated on her. He was an idiot, so he must have been seduced by a woman. He was a nagging pain. My brother-in-law worked for a large company and seemed to be a faithful businessman. He didn't seem like the type of man who would cheat on his wife. I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to make trouble, so I didn't say anything. Mia said the same thing as my parents-in-law, but Susie refused firmly. Susie didn't have a good opinion of them since she's never heard them utter a single kind word to me. I decline. What? What are you doing here to take care of Jane? Huh? What do you mean? She's a useless housekeeper just like Jane. It must be because she's not paying Susie enough. It doesn't really matter. She's only earning as a side job. She's a useless woman who can't even take care of herself. That's why I have no choice but to ask the housekeeper for help. Mia Kelly, you both can take care of yourselves, so you don't need help, do you? My parents-in-law's sarcasm doubled when Mia came home. A bedridden wife is nothing but a hindrance. Mia has come back and you only make our house cramp. We need only Mia. You're well off, aren't you? You live on your bed drawing silly doodles. Even when I was working, my sister-in-law would go out of her way to come to my room to sarcastically criticize me. I was fed up with constant sarcasm, so I talked to my husband about it. Hey, tell your mother-in-law and Mia to be a little more careful with their words. I'm hurt too, but it's the truth. What do you mean the truth? You can't even do your own housework. All you do is sleep on the bed all day. I'm not just sleeping, I'm working. You're working in bed. It's an easy job. You don't have to commute like I do. That's true. I'm trying my best to be useful to everyone. My family isn't happy with you because you can't take care of the house, despite you are my wife. It's no wonder they think you're useless. Do you really think so? Well, don't get so sensitive, just deal with it. You can't survive if you have to worry about every little thing. My husband wasn't very supportive at all. It's not that I don't feel inconvenience with my body, it's just so frustrating to know that he doesn't care about me at all. I constantly wish that I could walk or move as before. I wish that at least my husband could be sympathetic and understand how painful and sad I am. Am I selfish and asking too much to feel that way? When I think of that, even though I try not to cry tears alone, I was in an accident, I got this body, and yet I'm trying to look forward and do my best, and I will not lose because of this. I have been trying to push myself thinking that there are many other people in the world who are suffering more than me. I feel sad that I don't have my parents to rely on at a time like this. But I also think that was good because they don't need to see what I'm going through. But when they think that there's no one in this house to stand by me anymore, I feel more and more miserable. I don't have a home to go back to. I wondered if I could at least leave this house with my husband. While I was thinking about that, he threw even more shocking words at me. For a moment I was happy that he was thinking about me, but the next words threw me into hell. I knew they were right. What do you mean? I think we'll be better off with a younger, healthy wife than you. What? I want to have an heir after all. But you know, with you, I'm not ready. I don't know. It's just impossible. I felt as if someone had clubbed me in the head. I couldn't believe that my husband would say such a thing to me. I realized that I could no longer expect anything from him. Tom said a lot of things after that, but I couldn't hear anything. The only thing I understood was that he wanted to divorce me. You're useless like a piece of trash. You may be paying for a housekeeper, but you don't make much money anyway, so you won't have anything left after paying the housekeeper's bill. You're just a burden to us. You're a parasite that hangs around our house, right? Even helpers don't come for free. Parasites that spend money for helpers get out. I felt that there was no point in staying here any longer after being told such things by both my husband and in-laws. I thought to myself, I don't have a home to go back to. I just have to find a new place to live. Okay, I'll move out. I asked Susie to help me find a new place to live. She was happy to help me, and now all the procedures can be done online, which is very convenient. After all the paperwork was done, I gave Tom the divorce papers. Good. You finally made up your mind. But don't hate me. Hate yourself for having such a body. Fine. Are you sure that you're okay with me leaving? Of course it's fine. I'll find someone more suitable for me. Everybody says I'll find a better wife. Will you be able to make a living? Don't worry about that. That's retirement. Money is still there, and Mia said she got plenty of compensation for that. Fair. We won't have to worry about money for a while, so I don't need to depend on you anymore. Oh, sure, then do what you like. I thought Tom seemed to be blind to reality. I moved out without saying anything, and there were some positive things as well. Living alone, a whole book could support me with my daily life. They can help with things like cleaning the laundry and shopping. I felt really grateful. I continue to have Susie coming by us before. In fact, she was a businesswoman who worked hard at a major company before she got married, and she's really digitally savvy. But being a large corporation, it was an extremely competitive place, and she just got sick of it and put when she got married. That was 20 years ago. Susie laughed when she said that, but I wondered if the reason she was able to stand up to my ex-in-laws came from her experience. So now she's no longer my housekeeper with managing my business. She's happy to do. It is a lifesaver. Besides, the new place I moved to is a barrier-free apartment that is wheelchair accessible, so I can move around by myself. The kitchen is spacious enough for me to cook. Just when I was beginning to think that I was finally getting used to my new life, my ex-mother-in-law started calling me a lot. But there's nothing more to talk about, so I decided to ignore the calls. Partly because Susie's support was great, and partly because I could focus on work without all the drama. My business was doing so much better and didn't have time to deal with my ex-mother-in-law. A year passed. I still hear from Mia, though not as often as before my life was established. So I decided it was time to settle things for once, and I picked up the phone. Hello. Finally, you answered. Why haven't you ever answered the phone? I was worried that something had happened. She suddenly spoke to me in a sweet voice. She had never said anything like that when I lived there. I suspected that she was probably in trouble and heard about me. I wonder what kind of life she had in the past year. I'm grateful for your concern by vying and doing well. You don't need to worry about me. Oh well, that's good to hear. By the way, yes, well, do you still want to live with us like before? Excuse me? You can't be happy living with a parasite piece of garbage. I've been thinking about it a lot. It wasn't right to leave you. A physically disabled person alone will take good care of you, so you won't have to worry anymore. I'm doing great since I'm on my own. My helper can support me with my chores. They do my cleaning, laundry, and shopping. Besides, Susie helps me with my work. No issues at all. About that business, is it true you're making more than Tom? Yup. By the time of the divorce, he seemed to forget about it. He said that you're earning close to $15,000 every month. My income was covering their living expenses at the beginning. After an accident, they were helping me. At the same time, Tom's company wasn't doing well, and his pay was cut. Unfortunately, my income had been increasing, so I offered to help. At first, he was saying things like, sorry we didn't tell his parents anything since he said they were worried if they found out that his salary dropped. But after 3 years, he seemed to forget that I was painful Muslims. I thought he should put aside his own salary when we divorced. I didn't dare mention it. I also knew that the cause of Mia's divorce was not because of her husband cheating, but because of her. He had contacted me. He also told me that Mia stole his money. Mia said that she received the money as alimony. He said that he will take back exactly what she took, and he will in turn charge her for compensation. I decided to get divorced before my in-laws learned the truth. When I confronted Kelly about it, she was absolutely mortified. Tom fell in love with the girl from a hostess bar and owed a bit of money. Oh, so that's why he wanted a divorce, so he can lead to off her earnings. He can't count on something like that. First of all, they weren't in a relationship. He was just another customer. I know. Did you know? Yep, all of it. Why didn't you tell me? Did you also know that Tom's company was in danger? Yes. How dare you not tell me when you knew? According to Kelly, Mia eloped with her unfaithful boyfriend. But he dumped her and came back crying with even more debts. Tom's company went bankrupt 6 months ago, and that's searching for a job, but he can't seem to find one that he thinks is suitable for him. And now, just unemployed, he has lost all confidence in himself and has become a recluse. Because the kids are living with us, they completely used up Dad's retirement fund. There's only debts to pay. Really? So, if you come back, everything will be all right? I don't get it. I really didn't understand what she meant by everything would be all right. I feel understand the nerve of someone who kicked me out like the way they did, and now saying something like this. I also wondered how it's possible to change so much in 1 year. It was sooner than they expected. Tom probably had no clue that his company would actually go bankrupt. It was something that Tom was so careless would have done. Kelly tearfully said that if she had known, she would not have let us get divorced, but it was much too late for that. In the end, all she is saying is that it's all about the money. The only important thing for her is herself. Mia says she doesn't feel like working right now, so she's become a couch potato and gaining weight. Oh. He sold the house to pay off the kids' debts. The house was old and worthless, so they were deducted the cost of clearing the land, and the location was bad, so they didn't get much money for it. Now the family of 4 adults are living in a cheap apartment with only one room and forced to live a hard life. Kelly cried on the phone, saying that they were forced to work part-time from morning to night and were so exhausted. It's all your fault since you didn't answer my calls only if I was able to reach you before we sold the house. What do you mean? If you had known we were selling the house, you would have helped us, wouldn't you? You lived in that house too, so you must have some attachment to it, right? Not at all. It's something to think just how self-centered she was. I was really glad I didn't answer the phone. Well, even if I had answered, there's no way I would have gone along with such a story. Oh, so both Tom and Mia are being parasites to you, Mother? No, Kelly. So please come back. You're the only one we can count on. Nope. I'm not family. Don't rely on me. Don't say that. We're sorry for what we've done. I apologize. Oh. I couldn't grasp how she could say this. I started to get a headache. I decided it was time to give them an ultimatum and call it a day. I declined, but the reason I picked up your call today is because I had something I want to let you know. What is it? I'm going to sue all of you. What? Why should we pay? Besides, it's not like he cheated on you. He wasn't even with the girl from the hostess bar. It's not for cheating, it's for the mental anguish caused by the verbal abuse they received from all of you. Huh. I told her that I recorded and videotaped all the abusive language for them. When I told her the evidence I had, she became quite upset and hung up the phone abruptly. Maybe she thought I might demand more if we continue to talk. I wonder if this was what it was like to feel guilty. When I made a request for compensation through my lawyer, Kelly tearfully pleaded to somehow make it go away. They complained about the current situation. Of course, there was no way I would accept. I had been asked to illustrate a picture one step closer to my dream of becoming a picture book author someday. Many things have happened to me, but I would continue to live my life positively and without taking myself too seriously. Emily, I want a divorce. While I was doing the dishes, my husband John blurted that out unexpectedly. But why? I was taken aback by the suddenness. You see, I'm about to come into $3 million. That's a hell lot of money, right? But it's mine. I don't intend to share it with you. What does that have to do with the divorce? The truth is, I stayed with you for the money, Emily. Your salary isn't much, but it's better than nothing. So I reluctantly carried on with our married life. But once I get those 3 million, I won't need you anymore. I want to live a relaxed life alone. So please, let's part ways. Fine, if you have that much money, you can sell the house. It will cover the mortgage too. John was a bit surprised that I agreed without any resistance. This would mean goodbye to my tiresome life up to now. I slammed some papers onto the table in the living room. My name is Emily. I love children and work as a preschool teacher. I met John, who is 2 years older than me, through a friend's introduction, and we've been married for almost 8 years now. We bought a house, thinking about having children, looking forward to happy days ahead. That's what I thought during our newlywed days. But soon after we got married, John's attitude completely changed. He became more and more obsessed with money. Before we got married, he would tell me my job was a wonderful job, but then he started saying, "Emily, all you have to do is play with kids. I'm working my off here. You've got a good gig. I bet they call people like you a freeloader." Those words soon became his catchphrase. Being a daycare teacher is tough too. Each child has a different personality, and above all, we are entrusted with their lives. There's no such thing as an easy job. But he didn't listen and ignored my complaint. I was so frustrated and upset. The reason we don't have children, even though we've been married for 8 years, is also due to this. He would say, if you have time to make babies, you should work more. Don't tell me you're planning to quit your job using a baby as an excuse. We have a mortgage and taxes to pay, you know. What are you thinking? Don't ever talk about having kids again. I was yelled at and couldn't say anything back. Sure, John is older and has a career, so his income is higher than mine, but the gap isn't that big. It's only a difference of a few $1,000, and yet he acts high and mighty every time. I take pride in my job and feel fulfilled every day. So being looked down upon for such unreasonable reasons was humiliating. John's words pierced my heart, and I would often cry quietly by myself. And lately, John has been saying he wants to be alone more often. In reality, I could live by myself, but I've been sticking with you out of necessity. Don't forget that. Why does he always look down on me? Perhaps it has to do with John's increased overtime at work. It's because you're not working hard enough that I have to work overtime to make ends meet. How about being a little grateful? I was often blamed like this, but even though he's working overtime, it doesn't seem like his salary is increasing. I can tell because I carefully check our finances. But the salary doesn't really change much, does it? Even though you talk big. Maybe that ticked him off because John got angrier than I've ever seen him before. Who do you think is making this lifestyle possible? If I wanted to, I could dump you easily. Be prepared. He said something that sounded almost like a threat. He wasn't like this before we got married. Since that incident, our conversations as a couple have steadily decreased. Then one day, something happened that pushed me further into despair. When we visited John's parents during Thanksgiving, his mother served tea and said, "You two have been married for 8 years now, right? Emily, you used to say you wanted a child soon. Considering your age, have you decided on how many children you want?" I thought this was the perfect time to discuss the issue, so I was about to open my mouth. But then, Mom, we're not having kids. Emily and I talked it over and decided, "Oh, is that so?" "Yeah." She said she absolutely hates the idea of taking care of kids, whether it's at work or home. What? Wait a minute. What are you saying, Mom? Can you not bring it up so much? It's stressful for Emily, too. No, that's not what if that's what you two have decided, it's okay to just be the two of you. It's certainly hard work. With that, my mother-in-law left the room, and I was left unable to discuss anything. On the car ride home, I asked, why would you tell such a lie? I love children and want them, but you keep saying you don't want them yet. The fact that we can't afford to have a child because you don't work full-time is true. Only start talking when you start earning as much as me. I thought preschool teachers earn more. What a disappointment. I don't like the way you're saying that from the beginning. I never liked children and I never planned on having them. Children are just a financial burden. I'd rather spend that money on myself. While I was shocked, John just laughed. You should never mix personal matters with work. I knew that, of course, but I couldn't help but dwell on this issue. Children are sensitive to these things. A girl named Amy from the class I'm in charge of approached me. "Miss Emily, what's wrong? You seem less cheerful today." "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to worry you." "I'm fine," I said, patting her head. Amy wasn't the type to stand out, but she was very mature and kind for her age. She must be receiving a good upbringing. "You're not fine. You're usually much more cheerful. I don't want to see Miss Emily like this," she said sadly. I felt terrible for causing such a young child concern. Maybe my daddy can help with Miss Emily's problem. He's a superhero and helps lots of people. He's picking me up tomorrow, so I'll tell him. Amy's mother usually picked her up, but she said her father was coming to the preschool tomorrow because her mother was busy. I told her I was fine, but Amy insisted on introducing me. I hadn't really spoken to Amy's father since I met him at the school entrance ceremony, though I was a bit nervous. The next day, as Amy said, her father came to pick her up. Thank you for looking after Amy. I'm her father. I've heard a lot about you from my daughter. I really appreciate that she seems to be having a good time. Oh, not at all. We're the ones who should be thanking you. Amy is a very kind girl. I got the impression that he was a very polite person, but I didn't really feel like sharing my personal affairs, especially because they were quite embarrassing. They were not something that could be easily spoken about. I can tell that Miss Emily is worried about something, so I want you to talk to my dad. Thank you. Amy, I really appreciate your concern, but I understand how you feel. It can be difficult to confide in someone, even if they're a close acquaintance. However, my daughter is really worried about you. There's anything going on? Please let me help. Surprised, I received a business card from Amy's father and saw his title. But looking back, I think that was the moment my fate changed. That was when I decided to take revenge on John. While I was preparing for that moment, John suddenly approached me. Hey, how about we get a divorce? It was after a long time that John came home early and we had dinner together. My hands, which were washing dishes, stopped there. Perhaps he thought I was bewildered by the suddenness. John grinned unpleasantly. You might not like it, but my feelings won't change. May I ask why? A huge sum of money is coming in. Do you want to know how much? 3,000,000,000 dollars, dollar 3,000,000,000. John's mouth did not stop, even though I hadn't asked anything. I've been with you because I wanted money. Compared to me, it was just a drop in the bucket, but better than nothing, right? But now I have $3 million, so I don't need you anymore. So let's split up quickly. You've probably had enough of being a leech. Where did all that money come from? There were a lot of things I wanted to say, but first I asked John the question that came to mind. That's none of your business. We're strangers now. Okay, I understand. Let's separate then. Perhaps surprised by my swift reply, John looked a bit taken aback. By the way, I have no intention of living in this small house anymore. After all, I have $3 million. I'm thinking of using this money to live in a mansion, so I've decided to sell this house too. That's fine. I'll start looking for an apartment then. You can pay off the rest of the mortgage on this house, right? Yeah, I'll pay it all off, that much at least. I guess that's natural. Our positions are different after all. Thanks, that would be great. With that, I decided to take action. John watched me move briskly with a curious look, and so began a series of busy days packing and looking for an apartment. Once the divorce was more or less settled, I set up a time to talk to John again. I'll leave the mortgage payments to you, John. I don't want to argue about whether I said it or not in the future. So I've prepared a written agreement that includes all these points. Please sign it. Fine, as long as you don't start grumbling about it later. I always wondered why John always had to add an unnecessary remark. A surge of irritation welled up in me, but I managed to keep my temper. John, who had been perusing the divorce agreement, suddenly stopped in his tracks. Hey, what's this alimony section about? Why should I be the one to pay? If anything, Emily, who doesn't work full-time, should be the one paying you. Thought you could hide it from me? You're so naive. I replied calmly, laying out some documents on the table. Upon seeing this, John's face turned increasingly pale. Thanks for all the overtime work you've been doing every day. I appreciate all your hard work. You love your job, don't you, John? It must be fun to be with your mistress. There was a photo of John and a woman, arm in arm, looking quite friendly with each other. This woman, she's just a junior colleague. It just looks like we're arm in arm. Is this your attempt to catch me out? You're still going to say that, huh? Then how about this? I thrust another photo at him. It showed John and the same woman entering a hotel. I thought this would break him, but for some reason, he lashed out again. This must be a fabrication. Don't you know how advanced photo manipulation technology is these days? Do you really think you can fool me with this? I let out a heavy sigh. I hadn't expected him to be this stubborn, but I had anticipated this and made preparations. This isn't something I took. I think they'll be here soon. Just then, the doorbell rang. John looked flustered. unsure of what was about to happen. I went to the front door to greet them and LED them back to the living room. This is my attorney. These evidences were requested from a private detective agency, so there's no way they could be fabricated. If you have any doubts, should I call them right now? Pleasure to meet you. I'm Kelsler, Emily's attorney. From now on, we'll be discussing the divorce proceedings through me. Now, do you have any issues with the photographs? I'll be happy to answer all your questions. Seeing Kessler's confident smile, John started to panic. It turned out that John's claim of working overtime because he was busy was a lie. The private detective agency found out that he was actually leaving work on time. The reason? His income hadn't changed. Was because of this, if he wasn't working overtime, there would be no increase. He was spending his nights with his mistress. When his affair was exposed, one thing finally made sense to me. It was when John started saying he wanted to be alone. He probably said that because he wanted to be with his mistress. The lawyer I hired this time was a highly skilled one. It was Amy who connected me with him. Amy's father happens to be the CEO of a well-known group. Her words about her father being a superhero weren't a lie after all. Upon hearing the situation, Amy's father immediately contacted a private detective agency and introduced me to a lawyer. I thought it was a bit over the top, but the more I looked into John, the more his flaws started to emerge. And that made me so angry that I decided to go all out. You're acting as if this is all you're doing. You want alimony? I can give you that. I have $3 million. I can easily pay you that. If you're done here, just leave. I never want to see your face again. I would have left even if you hadn't said that. If anything comes up in the future, let's talk through the lawyer. Don't come to me directly. Who would ever want to see you? He spat out these last words. I silently packed my things and left the house. Perhaps if it had been anyone but John, it might have had more impact, but he was himself to the end. Just how arrogant can one be? I wondered as I left the house. I thought my tale of revenge had come to an end. Then, a few months later, just as I was getting used to my new life in the apartment where the incident occurred, something big changed. My source of stress was gone. At first, of course, I was shocked by the fact that I had divorced, but I didn't even have a shred of love left for John. That's why I also felt a sense of relief despite that he had the audacity to barge into my new apartment. Please, will you listen to me? I beg of you. He shouted so loudly at the entrance that I reluctantly let him in. What on earth do you want? I told you I don't want anything to do with you anymore. He was smirking as he looked around my apartment. I found it utterly disgusting. Well, you've got a nice place here for being separated from me. If there are 2 rooms in this spacious apt, I can make one my room right away. What are you talking about? There's no way I'm going to live with a stranger. Don't be so cold. We were once a couple, remember? We've officially become strangers through the legal process. Now, what is it you want? Don't talk like that, Emily. It's scary. Well, I just realized that I need Emily. I bet you'd have a better life with me, wouldn't you? You were living in a mansion with your mistress. I guess you were just with me out of necessity. I don't need to be with you. No, that was just the moment of confusion. I need Emily. You're just being stubborn, aren't you? Didn't you tell me you didn't need me anymore because you were getting $3 million? Why don't you find your next wife with that money? No, you're wrong. John started crying all of a sudden. The truth is, I said I was getting $3 million because I thought I had won the lottery, but when I looked closely, the numbers were wrong. I jumped the gun. What on earth is he talking about? I was so dumbfounded that I couldn't say a word. I've been looking for a reason to leave you. That's why I think I misread the numbers. I thought that if I got $3 million, I could divorce you right away and do whatever I wanted. When he saw the cold look in my eyes, he hurriedly added, "But I want you to feel reassured. I ended my relationship with her. From now on, I'll only love Emily, so let's start over. You still love me, don't you?" What are you saying? I don't know anything about that. You can do whatever you want. Please help me. I thought I was getting $3 million and I badmouthed my boss and quit my job. I can't ask him to take it back now. And what is worse, as soon as my love found out I didn't have any money, she stopped contacting me. It seemed like John was abandoned by his mistress. Of course, no one would want a man who is divorced, jobless, penniless, and homeless. That's why I can't pay my loan and I don't have a place to live. Emily, you're my only hope. I told you I don't know anything about it. If you stay here any longer, I'll take appropriate measures. Did you forget about the pledge you signed when we divorced? If you break your promise, I'll claim 5 times the alimony. That's enough. You. John, in a fit of anger, raised his hand. Is that what you're going to do? If you lay a hand on me, I'll call the cops right away. You could be charged with assault. This apartment complex has security cameras. So, even if you run, your face will be clearly captured. John turned pale at these words. Get out now, or I'll report you for trespassing. At the mention of a report, John fled. There was a sound like someone tumbling down the stairs, but I simply shut the door without concern. Since then, John never came back. Later, my in-laws came to apologize to me. They seemed not to have anticipated such a situation when I asked them about John's situation. They told me he had fractured his leg falling down the stairs that day. He had to be hospitalized for 2 months, which caused his expenses to pile up. However, he also had a mortgage and alimony to pay me, so he needed to find work as soon as possible. He begged his boss to let him work from home and rescind his resignation, but he had been quite rude when he quit and they wouldn't let him come back. My in-laws fronted the alimony, so he also had that. And the mortgage to repay. He's going to have a tough time. He really brought this on himself. Once things had settled down, I went to visit Amy's house. When I told Amy's father that everything had been resolved, he was very pleased. I've always wanted to meet you since Amy often talks about you. I didn't expect it to happen like this. I just made a few calls. I'm glad it worked out. I'm so happy to see Miss Emily smiling again. She could really be called a life changer. I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. My husband looked down on me, but because I was a preschool teacher, I am who I am now. I deeply felt the importance of cherishing every encounter. I love my job more than ever and want to keep doing my best. My name is Sarah. I'm 28 years old. I am in charge of general affairs of a large trading company. My boyfriend is John. We've been dating for 8 years and he's 2 years older than me. We started to save some money since we were thinking of getting married a few years ago. He finally proposed to me on my birthday. I wish we were in a nice restaurant with some nice meal and a glass of wine. And John suddenly snaps his fingers. The waiter dimmed the lights and, in reality, we just went on camping, one of our favorite activities, and his soup was simmering on the fire in front of us. And I was drinking my favorite alcohol. And when the wood crackled from the fire, John pulled out a small box and said, "Here, what exactly is this?" "A ring." "A ring." "Yes, let's get married. Isn't it time to get it right?" "All right, everything's settled." "Good. Cheers." I was quite drunk at the time. Looking back, I wish I could have done more, but we were not the type of couple who would be suited to such a celebrity like marriage proposal. Perhaps this type of marriage proposal would have been appropriate for us. John came to my parents' house to greet them after the marriage proposal. I'm so nervous. Consider this your first challenge and give it your all. It's for us. But next time it will be your turn. I'm ready for it. I'm going to see you as an example. You're so brave. You should hate yourself for falling in love. Look, we're almost there. Okay, then let's go for it. It's okay to be enthusiastic, but you should also dress well. Here's your tie. I straighten out his tie and tighten it for him. Don't I look like a wife? I'm not going to tell him though. My parents live in a suburban house. Although the house is 4 bedrooms, the yard is quite large. My father loves outdoor activities and he met my mother when he was climbing a mountain. That's why I love outdoor activities and camping is one of my hobbies. So I think I'm from a typical family. My father has retired, but he still works at a relative's company. I joined the company with great enthusiasm, but they don't give me any work. And I get paid for this, so my life must be easy and happy, right? He said. Well, both of my parents are in good health and I tell myself that it's a good thing that they are happy. When I arrived home, both of my parents greeted me at the door. It's nice to meet you. My name is John. John was still nervous, and he spotted out his own name. I would like to get married with Sarah, he insisted. I fell in love with him once more. John, Are you sure you're not going to regret? My father asked. If you're okay with it, go ahead, he laughed. My father has always been this way. Sierra's getting married, my mother added. I was furious. What are my parents on about? John was relieved, and we came just to say hello, but instead we were asked to have dinner together and stay the night. When my mother called John's house to say that we will be staying in our house, John's father answered the phone. Thank you for your kindness, but no, I'm afraid there might be some extra charges later on, he said. I've heard that John's father was the president of a large corporation. Extra charges, my mother responded. I am the company's president and John is my son. There are a lot of people begging for money for me, and I'm in a lot of trouble. I don't want him to involve with beggars. So you're saying we're poor people who beg for money? My mother's voice was angry. I'm saying there's a possibility. I see what you're saying. I'll then tell John to go home. Certainly. Please do so. He hung up the phone shortly after that. Who does he think he is? My mother was enraged. What happened? I politely invited John to stay, but his father refused, saying you're asking me for money. Then John came and apologized, saying I am sorry my parents were duped once, so they frequently doubt people's goodwill. There is no need to apologize for from now on you can gradually build a good relationship with them. Today was a good day for me. Please take excellent care for Sarah. John apologized and my father patted him on the shoulder. John left without staying the night. John's father's true personality was unknown to me at the time. And now it's my turn. John's father was a successful businessman who had made a fortune in his own lifetime. With his excellent management skills, he was the one who took over his parents' small iron works and grew it into a large-scale machinery manufacturer. Of course, his family home is also opulent. Despite being a private residence, it is a 3-story reinforced concrete structure surrounded on all sides by high walls. I was speechless when shown such a magnificent home. You've got nervous this time, John remarked lightly. John gives a light chuckle. Isn't it natural? I've been nervous as well. We're right there. You should look after your appearance. Thank you very much. With getting nervous, I entered the house, greeted my mother-in-law who welcomed me, and was led to the guest room. My father-in-law was sitting there. He told me to take a seat, and I did so in front of him. Hello, it's nice to meet you. I am Sarah. John and I are getting married. I'm Jordan, John's father. Thank you for coming so far today. Please put yourself at ease. Thank you kindly. John's father, whom I had never met before, looked like he's in a bad mood. I'll get right to it. What is your purpose? What do you mean? I'm the CEO of a large corporation. As you can see, I have a lot of advantages. I'm wondering if that's your intention. I was surprised. Attention. The purpose of the marriage is that I love John, but I never imagined that he would devise an oblique purpose on his own. No way. I have no such thoughts. But excuse me, what does your parents do? My father has already retired, and he has returned to my cousin's company to work. I'm not sure what he's up to, but he's doing well. My mother is a stay-at-home mom and is doing well. John's father became agitated hearing this. I followed my brow. I see. But from what I've heard, it doesn't sound like a particularly proper life. What do you do, by the way? I work as a general affairs manager for a larger trading company in Tokyo. You can't expect much progress in general affairs. Oh well, that's correct. So you intend to rely on John and me after you marry? Huh. I made an unintentional strange sound at the way he said it. What on earth is this father on about? My thoughts shifted here. I had lost interest in greeting him friendly and courteous manner. What exactly do you mean? It means exactly what I said. You're going to flirt with my rich son to get on his good side because your family is poor, aren't you? Your parents also want money so that their son can have fun in their old age. He's insulting not only me but also my parents. I couldn't bear listening to him. What the hell is going on? I screamed. He went too far for making fun of someone. My face began to flush. Dad, that's not true. No matter how much you say her parents were wonderful people, they greeted me with kindness when I went to greet them. They are not the type of people who would consider taking a job or relying on you. But there was insufficient for his father. Shut up, you're such a naive little boy. I'll look after you here. Don't listen to me, I can't. Cut them off in their conversation. You say we're poor? I interrupted. We are not wealthy in comparison to this house, but we can have standard life. And please don't say anything bad about my parents. They have my respect, and they are wonderful parents. Oh, Sarah, please calm down. John became frustrated with my swordplay and attempted to intervene. But John's father ignored him. Keep your mouth shut. John's father glared at me in response to what I was saying and said, what I mean by poor is a family with less money than ours. A marriage cannot function unless both parties are on the same level, and those who do not have money will expect the wealthy to provide for them. So you'll undoubtedly do the same. Am I mistaken? You may argue that things are different now, but I know it will happen sooner or later. Something snapped in my heart when I realized his father is so judgmental. I see what you're saying. Please find a wealthy life. Please excuse me. I stood up. Please, please, please. She's leaving. John and his mother were shocked, but I left without looking back. Wait a second. John yelled after me. No. What's the deal with your father? He looks down on me as if I'm a beggar. He's repulsive. John was becoming increasingly irritated with me as I snapped at him. John is upset with me and was getting on my nerves. My father was probably in a bad mood today. Enough. Why must you say that to me? I don't need you making fun of me. Hey, I'm not in the mood for relaxing right now. I'm sorry, but I'm just not feeling it today. I'm going home. Please do not contact me for a while. I clung to John. I've removed John's hand and walked away. John called and texted me several times, but I ignored them. I came home that day angry and told my parents what had happened as soon as I walked into the living room. That's terrible, my father said. Is my family really that poor? That's just terrible. John was a good man, but he's gotten even worse since the last time he called. She was extremely disappointed. So how about you? Are you ready to leave John? I still love John and hope to marry him. I see. Why don't you think for a little before going back to see him? If things continue to be complicated, I'll go. Really? Yes, for the sake of my daughter, I'll look after it. My father was kind and comforting. They don't seem to know much about us, so you should talk to them. My parents convinced me to meet John's parents once more. I contacted John and asked him to allow me to see his parents again. John was overjoyed and immediately got to work. I could now hear the start of the second round. My adversary was a formidable foe. Am I Don Quixote confronted by a massive windmill, or am I a hero of justice defeating an evil monster? On Saturday, we decided to see at John's house. If it was a decisive battle, it would have been on Friday, but it was on Saturday for me. Saturday has come. I was agitated all morning, staring at the clock, anticipating the appointed time. When the time has come, I met John, and we drove to John's parents' house. When I entered the house, my father-in-law was still sitting in the guest room. Hello, it's been a while, he said. I said hello to him. My father-in-law continued to look at me as he was looking at something bothersome. Why have you returned? My motto is I never give up. I smiled. My father-in-law's attitude was the same. I will not change my mind no matter how many times you come, so please don't waste your time. Yes, I see, but I won't just leave. I have my own pride. When my father-in-law heard this, he changed his attitude. Suit yourself. Do you have anything to say to me? I repeated the words of my marriage proposal. Please allow me to marry John. No, John is not going to marry a poor woman. Expected response. We are not poor. Furthermore, are you wealthy enough to call others poor? Now comes the counterattack. What the hell? I took over my father's company and grew it from 20 employees to 2,000 employees, including affiliated companies. Are you serious? How can I be poor from a great company? The sales have increased from 100 million to over 10 billion per year. Isn't that the company's money? It's not your money, right? Yes, the company is large, not you. I said straightforward to him. My father-in-law began yelling at me, possibly because he hadn't hit a nerve. What exactly are you trying to say? Enough with the disrespect. If you want to persuade me, show me that you have more money than I do. Is money the only way to judge a person? It isn't. Money is not to measure a person. My father-in-law's voice became even louder as I responded. That's a scumbag line. See, if you really want money, I'll give you that money in exchange for you to never come to my house again. That sounds like something a wealthy man would say, and it suits you. Oh, come on, Sarah. Father, you two please stop. John came over to stop us. Don't say anything. No, this is between Sarah and I to begin with. Stop talking. I'm going to show this poor woman how wonderful I am. I will not marry you until this is resolved. We came here to talk about our marriage, but why is this happening? John was holding his head. I'd like to see your parents. Huh. Is that the case? Then I'll fulfill your request. I'll bring my parents the next time I see you. Yes, bring them to me and I'll assess their parenting abilities. I'm sure they're just as rude as you are because they rate such a rude daughter. Father-in-law sneered as he said this. Why someone like John was born from you? I'm sure your mother-in-law has great change. Thank you very much, Sarah. Stepmother was overjoyed. Hey, why are you so cheerful? That's enough. We'll have a long conversation when your parents come over. I'll have a long talk with them and tell them that a daughter like you is not suited for this house. What a tirade. John, on the other hand, became enraged before I did. What a heinous thing to say. I no longer consider you to be a parent. I'm going to end the father-son relationship. So should I divorce as well? I don't want to be with someone who says such hideous things. When I got home, I told my parents about what happened today. So you say if you insist, I'll go see him. My father said after hearing the entire story, yes, you should give him a good talking. I'd like to meet John's mother, however. You don't have to come, it'll be too complicated. I wanted to go. My mother began to look forward to meeting John's mother. She was so ecstatic that she imagined herself making friends with John's mother. Your pace will drive me insane. It is under my control. I'm only concerned with you. Mom pretended to cry out of frustration. By the way, what was the name of John's father again? Jordan. Jordan. When my father heard the name of Jordan, he began to twist his head. I was curious about it, so I asked my father. Do you know him? No. It's just something that's bothered me. Dad cocked his head once more. You forgot my mother was choking. Ah yes, that's him. That scumbag. He finally recalled, and he knew him. I was taken aback by the coincidence. What? You knew who John's father was? Yes, Sarah, call John's father. It's next Saturday, okay? That's all right. And I'm going to be late, so could you go ahead of me? What? You're not coming with me? I assumed my father would accompany me, so I was surprised to know that he would not. You know the show star has to make an appearance at the end. I understand. I'm not sure what my father was thinking, but I decided to let him handle it. It was the day of the battle. I'm going to be a little late as I planned. I'll call you when I arrive, so just hang tight until then, he said. We came to John's house for the third time as the autumn season deepened. I arrived at John's house, briefly greeted him, and was led into the guest room. My father-in-law sat there, looked serious as usual. Hello, mother-in-law. I was looking forward to seeing you today. Hello, Sarah. I know your father is also here today. What do you think your father would like to drink? She appears to be enjoying herself. I felt a little better after seeing her. There is no need to prepare any liquor. I mean, this is the third time you've come. What a squandering of our fine liquor and a poor man. Thank you for your concern, mother-in-law. But not right now. Isn't your father with you, by the way? Did you get scared? He continues to speak to me as if he looks down on me. He's only a few minutes late because he needs to get ready. I apologize. Well, it really doesn't matter. In an irritated tone, John chastised him for his attitude. John is also in a pickle, I thought to myself. Enough of this. I'll be the one getting married. You don't need to complain. His words also did not reach my father-in-law. Jordan replaced directly. I'm doing everything I can for you. When John heard this, he exclaimed angrily. It's none of your business. My father called while we were having this kind of conversation. I just got a call from my father. He has arrived. I then heard the doorbell ring. I apologize for bothering you. I could hear my father's voice. Oh, hello there, my dear. It's been a long time. My mother-in-law greeted him in an unusual manner. I'm sure she's never met my father before, but I speculate. I'm so glad you remember me. Please excuse me, but I'm here today at Sarah's father. Thank you for having Sarah. No, it's my pleasure. Everyone is expecting you. Please make your way this way. Thank you kindly. My father was led into the guest room after hearing this conversation. Good day, Jordan. It's been a while. When he saw my father enter the room, he abruptly stood up, erect and immobile. Oh, you were a colonel before you retired, I believe. Please forgive me, it's been a while. He saluted. He bowed his head 10 degrees forward with his hands by its sides in an abbreviated salute because he was indoors and lacked a hat. The unexpected event made it difficult for both John and me to comprehend what was going on. Don't be so rigid. I was a call now, and you are a sergeant major a long time ago. After all, this is your house. You've made great strides. Wasn't it worth it for me to train you? Huh. Anyway, I'm sorry to bother you here, but please have a seat. Thank you. You should sit down too. You're making everyone uncomfortable standing here. Well then, if you'll excuse me. The father-in-law sat down after saying that, but he sat down formally. Dad, do you know each other? I confirmed as this was so unexpected. Yes, when I was in the self-defense forces a long time ago, he came to us as a new worker. In contrast to my father, who spoke softly, who had been sitting on his haunches a moment before, curled up in a shrunk back. Well, what a coincidence that we meet again like this. I heard that you were the president. Now the dropout has come a long way, hasn't he? Huh. I apologize for the trouble I caused you when I was in the SDF. After retiring from the JSDF, I took over my father's company. And with all help, we've come this far. My father-in-law was trying to be polite during the entire conversation. He was in a rat-faced. That lousy worker is now the president of the company. You're lucky to be president now. Well, can we stop talking about the old days? I wanted to hear the old story. I asked my father a question. Hey, you know what? Is Chief Petty Officer a big deal? You are a colonel, weren't you? Yeah, a surgeon major is like a section chief in a company. I was better position. My father-in-law nodded his head at that. I didn't know that John's partner was your daughter. My father laughed cheerfully. So don't get me wrong. I'm a retired civilian now. My father-in-law responded to these words. Again, a trepidation. He replied, Yes, sir, I will do so, sir. By the way, he said, straightening his back a little. He looked down at my father-in-law, who was scrolled up on his desk. My daughter has told me many things about you. We've always had this weird obsession with being higher or lower than your partner. I told you to stop it, but you are still doing it. I heard you look down on our daughter and say she's poor. That's right, my father-in-law shrank more and more, he said. Yes, I am truly sorry. No. After I retired from the military, I took care of a company you may have heard of it called Star Heavy Industries. The president of the company is my cousin. He has ties to the self-defense forces, so he is now the head of the technical development department and a director. Again, my father told acquaintanceships. My father-in-law's eyes widened at this. Yes. Isn't Star Heavy Industries? Yes, that's right. As I recall, our company and your company have a business relationship. Yes, sir. Star Heavy Industry is an important business partner of our company, and we are always very grateful to you. I'm not here to talk business, but as it is, I think we need to give it some thought. The pressure of the father looking down. And the father-in-law got nervous even more. I had been looked down upon as a poor woman for so long. And even though that I wanted to see my parents' faces, that was truly exhilarating for me. No, that's very troubling. My father's tongue became a little stern in reply. Then, as a parent, shouldn't you give you a blessing to John and Sarah's marriage? We're not as poor as you say. I was very sorry for my impoliteness. After seeing this, the father-in-law bowed his head while sitting on his knees. That's right, John and Sarah. This means that there is no more problem with their marriage. My father looked up at us and said all is settled. Yes. Thank you very much. John thanked him with a truly happy expression. Thank you, father. I thanked him too. Without my father, this might have not ended well. I was really glad that my father was there. My father-in-law kept his head down. Chief Jordan, she seemed to like the term Sergeant Jordan, and with her hands on her waist in a slumped posture, she ordered my father-in-law. Even you? What are you talking about? Jordan became quiet. My father looked at me and winked at me with a thumbs up. Then John and I had a successful wedding. Many of my father's college classmates attended the reception. My father graduated from the University of Defense. I guess everyone was a big man in the self-defense forces. Chief Jordan was made to stand upright and everyone made fun of him. During the wedding entertainment, my father's classmates performed self-defense forces gymnastics. Of course, Chief Jordan was in charge of giving the order, and he led the group. We laughed out loud at the sight of these old men sweating and doing the exercises. Since that incident, whenever my mother-in-law had a request from my father-in-law, she would call him Chief Petty Officer Jordan and speaks to him in a commanding tone. Now he can't stand her. I live a happy life with John. We are blessed with 2 boys. My father is so attached to his grandchildren that when he sees them, he looks too happy. One day a friend who had worked with my father came to visit, and upon seeing him with his grandchildren, he said with a wry smile, "That man who is called the devil." He laughed bitterly at the sight of my father with his grandchildren. Today my father and our children are playing hero in the garden. Miracle beam. Gee, I've been hit. My father and children were covered in mud. Oh my God, he's a boy, isn't he? I laughed with my mother. You kids, you could be a real heroes in the future, you know? Go for it, future heroes. This place doesn't suit you, a middle school graduate, and it's embarrassing for you to be here. You are a poor woman living on a pension. I don't want anything to do with you. So why don't you leave? What my eldest son's wife said made me lose my patience. Finally, the arrogant attitude I've tolerated for so many years came to the forefront of my mind and I was seething with anger. I said to her if I'd just shut up and listen before I could finish. My second son's wife, who looked pale, said, "Oh, Mary, don't tell me you don't know. This is the story of my eldest son's wife who had made fun of me, her mother-in-law, until she fell into a miserable situation. My name is Sally. Today I'm going to be 62 years old. I am already old, but I managed to live a healthy life. Since graduating a junior high school, I have spent my time working and raising my children, and before I knew it, I have reached this age even for me. It was depressing when my beloved husband suddenly passed away 5 years ago. But with the support of those around me, I was able to overcome over the few years. I am now working just a little bit. I have taken over the work from my husband, and although there are some small problems, the work itself is going well and I am satisfied with it. But there is something that bothers me more than that. Hello, I have a delivery for you. I respond as the carrier comes to my door. It was a single sealed envelope and a gorgeous floral arrangement. It was a flower arrangement with a card that said happy birthday. The name of the sender of it was my second son, Tyler, but I have never received anything like this when he was single. Ariana, who got married to Tyler last year, must have taken care of it for a better or worse. Tyler has a carefree and non-toxic personality, but he married last year to Ariana, who is firm and considerate. She lives about an hour's drive away from here, but they come by every once in a while to show their concern and invite me on trips with them. I called Ariana to thank her. She said, "Happy birthday. I heard that you like flowers. I hope you stay to be well. I look forward to seeing you again." She said happily. She is such a good wife. That is too good for Tyler. The problem is the center of the other sealed letter. The sender's name is Tom, my eldest son. When I opened it, I found a birthday card. Tom, who got married a little before Tyler, is not the type of person who would do something like this on his own either. So it must have been his wife Mary. My eldest son's wife. Mary was the source of my greatest concern. Mary boasts of being a highly educated elite working for a large company. She has a strong temperament and, to put it bluntly, a haughty personality. She judges people based on their educational backgrounds and the companies they work for, and if someone is lower than her, she immediately takes an attitude of making fun of them. Who has been working since graduated from junior high school, is an object of contempt for her. I knew from the beginning that she looked down on me, but as the mother went by, she became more and more arrogant. She would come over to my house without notice, and then she would jaw at me to prepare meals. She said I'm tired from a work. She would also ask me for money behind Tom's back. Tom is also in a management position at the restaurant chain, so money is never a problem for her. Still, I love Tom, who is like my husband, is soft-spoken and somewhat fragile, and I put up with it because she married him, but if I'm honest, it hurts me and I don't feel good about it. But she congratulated me on my birthday. I should at least thank her. So I call Mary. I called and she said, "Hello, I'm sorry. I'm tired from work, so please make it quick like that." I said, "You sent me a card for my birthday, didn't you?" "I called to thank you for the birthday card you sent me." "Thank you." "Oh, you got it. I'm so glad." "Oh, by the way, there's a dinner party with your relatives coming up, isn't there?" "Sally, please go dress decently so I won't be embarrassed." "Yes. Thank you anyway." "Yes, yes. Well then, bye." She hung up. There was not even a word of congratulations, but that's Mary. I sighed to myself and wondered if there was anything I could do. A few weeks later, I had a chance to have a dinner party with my relatives. My niece, who I have loved since she was a little girl, was getting married. She is a cousin of Tom and Tyler since they were not going to have a wedding. They decided to hold a dinner party to introduce her husband to her relatives. They invited me, Tom, Mary, Tyler, and Ariana. I was walking with my second son and his wife, who has arrived earlier, through the courtyard where the dinner party was to be held. The weather was fine today, wasn't it? You look great in your kimono, and it fits perfectly in this courtyard. I said, well, it's a proper place today, and I haven't been here in a long time. I wish I had come in a kimono too. It's a very nice and luxurious restaurant. Oh, come on, I can't buy you an expensive kimono for a place like this. I know, I'm just saying. While we were having such conversation, the eldest son and his wife came in late. Hello. Wow. You dressed properly. Hey, you don't have to say it like that. Tom tried to stop her, but Mary was clearly unhappy. It's almost time to go in. I said so, and went inside the restaurant. About 30 relatives have gathered, and many of them came to greet me. She is a very well-liked, isn't she? Is it out of pity after all? Mary, who was standing a little distance away from me, whispered, but my ears caught her, but I pretended not to hear her and took my seat. My niece and her nuptial partner greeted, and after a toast, the dinner party began. I thought it would be a restaurant in a rural area, but the food is quite impressive. They have a good selection of sake as well. It just as well they were featured in a Tokyo magazine. Mary was enjoying her meal, one after another, and drinking a lot of sake. While saying such things, the dinner itself went on peacefully. In a celebratory mood for my niece's marriage, I was relieved to see that my niece's partner seemed to be a solid person. By the way, I heard that you graduated from the University of K and are working for a famous bank. In the conversation, one of the relatives said those things to my niece's marriage partner. Yes, indeed I do. I am grateful to my parents for letting me go to the college. My niece's marriage partner replied with trepidation. So far, so good. K University. Hey, I graduated from West University. I'm a chief executive at the big company. Mary started forward even though no one asked. She was eager to boast about her educational background and the company she works for. Hey, stop it. Tom tried to stop her, but Mary ignored him. She said, after all, in this day and age, academic background is very important, isn't it? No, I don't think so. There are many respectable people regardless of their academic background. My niece's marriage partner responded firmly. But Mary's talking does not end. I think you, who went to K University, would understand that there is something that only educated people can understand. I guess you would understand people with no education are low level. What? My niece's partner was a bit taken aback. Hey, you've had too much to drink. That's right. Mary, Tom, and Ariana desperately tried to stop her. Tom looked at Mary as if she were an alien. It was same for the relatives who were there. If you don't have an education, you can't get a job at a good company. And you can't make money, you know what I mean, don't you, Sally? She suddenly asked me, but I already guessed what she was going to say. I don't know, Mary, you drank too much. Why don't you go outside and get some air? I answered without hesitation, but that seemed to irritate her. What's the matter with you, Mary? You're being a bit harsh. Did you just tell me to leave? Even though I'm a college graduate and you are a junior high school graduate. I don't understand. Hey, what the hell are you? Tom tried to stop her, but I stopped him with my eyes. Now that it's come to this, the puss has to come out. I thought. Mary, if you have something to say, why don't you say it? I said, and she laughed through her nose and then spoke up. Well, let me tell you something if I were you. I would be too embarrassed to show up in the relatives because you're a middle school graduate with no qualification. All the relatives, including my niece and my niece's married partner, were looking at us, she said. I haven't seen you working much since your husband passed away. I mean, you're unemployed, and at 62, it's not even close to retirement age at the place I work. And people are working hard as an elite manager. Mary was a sole provider. She even seemed to be enjoying herself. You didn't go to high school, not even to a good university, and you don't have any qualifications. That's why you're in this situation. Don't you think it's pathetic? Oh, I definitely don't want to become an aunt like you. Although I don't because I work for a big company. Not only the relatives, but even the employees who brought the food froze and listened to her words. Then she unleashed the decisive words. She said, "A middle school graduate like you doesn't belong in a place like this, and it's embarrassing. You are a poor person living on a pension. I don't want to get involved, so why don't you leave?" Mary's words made me lose my patience finally. The arrogant attitude I have been trying so hard to tolerate until now came to the forefront of my mind. And I felt a surge of rage. The back of my nose twitched, and I held back the tears that was about to flow. I thought to myself, hey, I just shut up and listen. But before I could finish, Ariana, who looked a very pale, said, "Oh, Mary, don't tell me you don't know," she said. "What?" "I don't know what." Mary looked at Ariana with doubtful eyes, then looked around at the relatives. Some looked bitter, some looked really angry, some looked condescending. Tom suppressed his eyes and slumped down. "What? What the hell?" Mary said, and Ariana answered in a trembling voice. "Sally is the owner of this restaurant, remember?" After a moment of silence. "What? Don't make me laugh. What are you talking about?" Mary snickered. Then the chief and the employees who were there rushed over to me. "Boss, are you all right? She is a wonderful person. I can tell you how much she had helped me." "Do you know what you're talking about?" he shouted angrily at Mary. She turned to Tom Tom. "What's this all about?" "Nothing, it's just what they said is true." "What? What are you talking about? You've never told me before." "Dad and Mom started this restaurant, and she took over from him, but she wasn't in a good position to run the business by herself. So now she lends her name to someone else to run the business. It is true that she is the owner. Why didn't you tell me? If I tell you, you would say stupid things like getting the restaurant or the property. I wanted to leave my mother alone, who was depressed after my father's death. Besides, as soon as you heard about my mother's education background, you looked down on her and weren't interested." "What? How can a junior high school graduate run such a fancy restaurant? The business is going down the drain, isn't it? Even the house is old. It's true that they are poor." Tyler was the one who spoke to Mary, who is still complaining. "My mother is a person who prefers to keep things simple, and the house is full of memories of my father. She owns a condominium in front of the station and other properties that she and my father bought together. To be honest, I think she earns much more than you do." "What? What the hell, you guys, enough. You're just a middle school graduate. Why don't you just stop?" A quiet, calm voice ranged out. Standing there was a man who is one of the relatives, but not much older than me. He was dressed in an elegant suit. "What's the matter with you, old man? Don't talk to me, who are you?" "Huh?" Mary looked at the man's face to retort, and then her face turned pale. "Do you know who I am?" "No, no way." "Executive director." This man was a cousin of my husband. He seemed to be the managing director of Mary's company. I had no idea that one of her relatives was a problem employee of her company. To be honest, you don't have a good reputation in the company. I heard that you are very critical of other employees and that you treat your subordinates differently based on their academic backgrounds. This seems to have a big impact on your work as it causes projects big problems." Mary looked as if she was about to faint, but the executive director continued. "I'm sure it must be even worse at your company since you treat your relatives so badly. I'm going to take a look at this case, and I'll make sure that my report against you is properly scrutinized. You will probably be demoted or left." "Oh no. Executive director, please, please don't do that." As Mary was about to ask for help, Tom grabbed her by her shoulders and stopped her. That's enough, Mary. What if you had told me from the beginning this wouldn't have happened? Do something about it. Hey! Mary, with a bright red face, attacked Tom. Mary, let's get a divorce. You're always like that, but you're ruining such an important event and causing problems at work as well. More than anything. I can't be with you anymore after you spoke out that way to my mother, who worked so hard to raise us. Tom said that without an emotion. I burst into tears as Tyler held me by the shoulders and Ariana cuddled me close. What the hell? Everyone is protecting this middle-aged woman. There is no way that I am divorced and demoted. Don't be silly. Mary is distraught. The executive director says quietly, "You can't stay here any longer. You should leave now." I agree, it's an important place for us, and my aunt is an important person. We don't feel good about having it ruined. Please leave us alone, my niece, who had been watching this, told her in a firm voice. This is ridiculous. This is impossible. Mary was stunned and left the room with the employee. Everyone, I'm sorry about my wife, as Tom bowed. My niece rubbed my arm. And don't worry about it. I love you and everyone loves you. And besides, that lady will not be your daughter-in-law anymore. Yes, she won't. Don't worry about it. Sally, I respect you. Ariana leaned in close and told me that yes, I'll be happy if I can get divorced with her. Tom said to me as well. I'm sorry, Tom. I can't believe you are divorcing because of me. What are you talking about? I'm really sorry for everything I've done. From now on I will be more filial to my parents. Tom said so and put his hand on my shoulder. After that, we all regained our composure and we were able to finish the dinner without incident. A few months later, Tom and Mary divorced. Mary made a fuss and went to the family court to seek alimony, but her claim was not successful, according to what the managing director told us. An internal investigation revealed Mary's problematic behavior. She was so proud of her education and work, but I can't believe she was behaving like that at work. In the end, she was transferred to a small branch office in another prefecture. Technically, she was demoted. Then something unexpected happened. Tom announced that he would take over the restaurant. Originally, I have never forced my children to take over the family business because I wanted them to do the work they loved. But it was true that I felt a little sad about handing over the precious place I have inherited from my husband to someone else. Tom told me with a serious look on his face. That restaurant must have been filled with the love and passion of my father and you. Tom said, I really wanted to take over the restaurant, but I thought I couldn't handle it, so I went to work for a restaurant chain. But when I saw how much you are loved by your employees, I decided I wanted to protect the restaurant that you and Dad have built. Tom, thank you very much. But until then, you have a lot to learn and study. I'll guide you and teach you well, so do your best. Tom came to work for me at the restaurant and I became busy again as I trained him. 1 year later, on my 63rd birthday, as Tom and I waited in front of our house, Tyler's car arrived. Sally, happy birthday. Ariana got out of the car and her voice filled with joy. Tyler gently picked up the baby from the car seat in the back seat and nursed him. Welcome you to know it's 3 of you. They had a baby and I finally got to be a grandmother to my lovely grandchildren. It's about time I took over the restaurant business in earnest, and I hope to be able to serve my nephews delicious food for their celebrations. Tom, who has worked hard in his training and will take over the restaurant in earnest this year, also narrowed his eyes. Today I secretly wish to find someone new for Tom, who has finally become a full-fledged restaurant chef. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the story, please like, subscribe, and share.